Hey Neil, what's up? How's it going? I gotta check why this is not going on a Periscope. Welcome. It's always a good jam. Welcome. Just have to do with what we got. Hope y'all are having a really good afternoon. It's a Friday. Well, I decided to do this because Seth Rich seems to be one of the forgotten people in a lot of the surroundings with what we're dealing with right now. We have the investigations. We have oh, that's why I got it. Hold on just a second. Let me fix this, and I'll be right with you. There we go. Now we're up to date. Good. Okay. If we're still not there, I'll switch it back later. But because of, with all the different surroundings we're having, we have the coronavirus, we have the new Flynn news, plus we just had Space Force flag officially be presented. We've had so much, and there's also been the new unmasking stories, but one of the people that may have forgotten is Seth Rich. And I think he deserves still justice for his murder. He is just one of those, persons forgotten in a way. I heard Matt Couch has been looking into this, and I still think he's missing his justice for his murder. If anybody's very unfamiliar with Seth Rich, he is a young man who worked for the DNC, and he was a Bernie bro. Now, I'm far from a Bernie bro, that's for sure. But the important thing is he is a human being, and he deserved better than what he got. He tried to do the right thing. The FBI was always trying to say that it was the Russians that hacked the DNC. It was the Russians. Well, no, it was not the Russians. It was actually, more likely, Seth Rich. Because he was very unhappy the way they treated Bernie Sanders during the elections. Pretty much, Hillary stole it. Hey, Monica. So you really still do not hear anything about where the investigation is gone, but this is more or less a reminder that his day of justice still is to come. We need to find who did this to him. So back to being a DNC worker, and for Bernie Sanders, he decided to screw with Hillary Clinton and take her emails and a bunch of information from the DNC. Now, the FBI was always screwing with him, saying, well, they don't know nothing about it, it's a dead end, what have you. So the point is that he was one night walking in Washington and he was murdered. There was nothing missing. His watch, wallet, ID, what have you, was still on him. Why was this man killed? Well, more people are suspecting that he was working for Julian Assange. And I really come to that conclusion also, because with some of the stuff that I'll try to present and it kind of explains a lot. So, let's see. There we go. The brother of the murdered DNC staffer, Seth Rich, wants Twitter to unmask the FBI leaker. Twitter is also told in the years since Seth Rich, a former Democratic National Committee staffer, was killed in 2016, the conspiracy theories were spread and that he stole emails from his employer and sold them to WikiLeaks. Aaron Rich, his older brother, was also embroiled in the saga, which, oh, thank you. And Seth Rich, lost my place, whispered suggestions that he helped Oh, thank you for the diamond. Thank you very much, Neil. And but he has also since but he has also since been seeking to bring an end to the rumors surging in individuals and organizations for spreading them, and previously unreported subpoenas, and demand Twitter unmasked a user who claimed to be the anonymous FBI insider helping proliferate the conspiracy theories. Now, there's been many different theories in this, and for some reason, the reason they keep saying there's conspiracy theories and what have you is because somebody must have scared the hell out of the Riches, because they did at first want to find the killer of their son, which is natural. And dance break. Notice I got those working too. Their parents, obviously, they wanted their son's killer found, but then they changed their story probably 1 or 2 years later. But where he was walking, there was a lot of camera footage, or cameras on the houses and everything.
I have a source inside the police department that has looked at me straight in the eye and said, Rod, we were told to stand down in this case, and I can't share any information with you.
What's up, everybody? Sheila Aliens here with an update from one of Seth Rich's neighbors. And I'll go over my sources in a minute, But this is regarding numerous cameras in the Bloomingdale area of Washington, D.C., and the police department's attempts, or lack thereof, to obtain any footage from the residents there. The neighbor posted this on July 12, 2016, 2 days after Seth Rich was murdered. And it says,
I had two neighbors check their cameras between 4 a.m. and 4:30 a.m., which show nobody coming or going on the south side of W Street, or going from First to Flagler, and nobody coming or going on the north side of V Street, going from First to Flagler. Alley view along North V also shows no movement. After the shots, I was looking out W Street at North Side and saw nobody run by, and then I ran to the southwest alley side and saw no movement there. So the perpetrators went in one of three directions: toward Second, or down Flagler toward U, or up Flagler toward Adams. Does anyone have cameras in those directions? Flagler Market cameras are our best hope. Authorities came to look at footage, but at first they couldn't figure out the setup. They sent someone different to collect a copy of the store footage, but I haven't heard any results.
Flagler Market is the little convenience store that's on the corner where Seth Rich was murdered. It does have cameras, as well as many of the surrounding residential houses also have cameras. What DC does is it has an incentive program for its residents where they will pay them up to $500 to install an external outdoor security camera pointed at the street. Many of them have done this and have received their rebates. Kind of a cool program to have in a little area with such a high crime rate, which it does have a very high crime rate there. Another post on this Nextdoor community linked to a local news report about the camera incentive program. Let's take a look.
DC's Mayor Muriel Bowser is hoping to see more surveillance cameras across the district. She's started to expand a program for safety, and News 4's Mark Seagraves is live in the Bloomingdale neighborhood with more on that. Bloomingdale neighborhood, Mark.
Yeah, Jim, this is one of the neighborhoods where people have taken advantage of that grant almost the most. You can see cameras all over the neighborhood. Take a look at this sign on this property, protected by video surveillance. That sign says it all. Today, Mayor Bowser came here to Bloomingdale to talk to neighbors and businesses who are already participating in the program and have already received the grants.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, especially for me. I'm not home a lot, so this neighborhood crime has definitely increased.
Take a look at just how much crime there's been in just a 1,500-foot radius of her home so far this year. More than 200 reported crimes, including 25 people robbed at gunpoint.
Good to see you.
Patrice Cleary's neighbor installed 3 cameras, and the grant covered his entire costs. Now, everybody we talked to who's received the grant said, in fact, yes, it was very easy both to install the cameras and to get the money from the D.C. government. In order to do that, you have to install the cameras first, then apply for the grant. Homeowners can get $500. Business owners can get up to $750.
Hey, Mark, if you get the city to pay for your camera, does that mean the city has access to all of a resident's video?
No, and that's a question that a lot of residents ask, and then absolutely not. Now, they say residents can be asked, businesses can be asked by police for that video, just like anyone who has a security camera at their home or business can be asked by police for the footage from that camera. But in no way, shape, or form do they have ownership of that. It is up to the homeowner or the business owner whether or not they...
So there you have it. You heard it from them. Bloomingdale is one of the communities that has the most cameras. You might be saying, oh, well, that news video is from October 2016. It is, but this program has been in effect since before Seth Rich was murdered. Now, their police department does a monthly report on the number of cameras funded, and they also report on how many times footage was requested from one of the cameras by the police. So on August 6th, that's when they posted the report for the previous month of July, which was when Seth was murdered. So if we take a look at that report, the data as of August 5th, 2016, total number of rebates issued, 571 rebates have been issued. The total number of private security cameras funded, 1,585 cameras have been funded in DC as of August 5th, 2016. the number of rebates issued in each police service area. I looked it up, and the Bloomingdale neighborhood is in the 501 police service area. And as of August, there was only 17 rebates issued, which means at least 17 cameras installed, but most of them have up to 4 cameras installed each, facing in different directions. So we're looking at up to about 70 cameras in just that Bloomingdale area. What's also interesting from their August 2016 report on the local security cameras is the number of times that Metropolitan Police Department requested footage from a program recipient and whether the request was granted or denied by the program recipient. For the month of July 2016, there was one documented request for footage by MPD. One person. They only requested footage from one person. The request was granted and footage was used. It goes on to say MPD detectives may be in direct contact with a program recipient without that information being specifically tracked by existing law enforcement resources. Whatever the fuck that last sentence means, sounds like a bunch of BS. So one person, they only requested footage from one person. And by the sounds of it, they did get a video. We can only assume then that this was the Seth Rich case, because while residents are rebated up to $500, businesses can get a rebate of up to $700 to install the external security camera on their building. So that very well could have been the Flagler Market that was requested to show their footage to the police. If we go back to what the neighbor said, then that is very most likely the case. So there is footage of Seth Rich's murder, and the police have it. And everybody should be filing Freedom of Information Act requests to get that footage. For those wondering if the neighbor's post is even credible, it is, and this is how I found it. I wasn't gonna make any videos about Seth Rich's murder, since it's being covered so extensively already here on YouTube by everybody else, and with the little available factual knowledge that we have on what happened. But a week or so ago, I had an idea, and I tweeted it at the time, that maybe researchers should join Seth's local nextdoor.com community, since the information shared on that site is hyper-localized, and you have to be an actual resident of that neighborhood in order to view the posts, or to post in that neighborhood's feed. So it's a lot like Facebook, but it's very more decentralized, and focuses on giving each neighborhood the privacy to speak amongst itself. So you do actually have to be a resident to join a particular neighborhood, or at least you're supposed to be. The way they verify if you actually live there or not is by either mailing you a code to the physical mailbox, calling your phone, which has to have a local billing address, or the last option, which is what I used, they verify via credit card or debit card, which has to have a matching billing address to the neighborhood you want to join. Since I have a reloadable NetSpend card, I just logged into NetSpend and I changed my address on the account, and I changed it to an address in the vicinity of where Seth was murdered. And I was able to gain instant access to that Nextdoor community. On a side note, I'm only lurking on the community. I'm not actually interacting with the residents, and I'm not bothering them with any questions. And if you decide to go this route on Nextdoor, I suggest you do the same and have some respect for the privacy of the residents there. They don't want to be answering a bunch of questions about Seth all day long. So that's how I got into the community there. Thanks for watching. If you like my channel, please consider...
So that is when it started. I mean, when they really started looking into things. But let's see. Sorry. But really, it just was the tip of the iceberg. Nobody has really been able to find any video of this murder. Very mysterious, and they said they've only went to one resident. Now, you would think it would be, this is what, a homicide? You would consider they want to go to every single one in that vicinity to find out if there was anything anybody saw. You would think that was police standard. In the days coming, Honestly, there's really not a whole lot of information that we have. I am presenting, hopefully, in a timeline that gives you more perspective and where we are actually today in this. Then we had the family of Seth, and this was, I think, this was back in July 13th, 2016. His family went on TV.
And what we learned from Kelsey, he was talking to her. She heard some noise on the phone. She said, "Are you okay?" "Hey, are you home?" He says, "Yeah, I'm home." And then it's, "I have to call you back." And we don't know what happened there, except he ended up shot twice in the back, and they said he was talking to the officers when they first got there. He was maybe stable when he got to the hospital, and then things went bad, and bullets and people don't match well.
He had bruising on his face, he had bruising on his knuckles, and he had bruising on his knees. So we know he struggled, but we believe someone came from behind him. Was he pushed down? What the struggle was? There's no surveillance yet that we have heard of or anything. We know the police are looking for that, but we may never know what actually happened.
If it was a robbery, it wasn't successful because the police have all his belongings, cell phone, wallet, credit cards, money, so
Nothing was taken.
Nothing was taken from him, so if that's what they were trying to do, they got scared and they ran off. And he was a caring person, that he wanted to make a difference. And unfortunately, those visions, those ideas are going to have to be unfulfilled, that he's not able in the communities or the whatever things he was working on. His biggest thing now was helping make sure that people, who wanted to vote, that they could find the polling places, they could vote, so that everybody can do what they want, and that we can have a better nation.
He also would tell you, make the most of every moment, because you never know when the next moment isn't going to exist. And laugh.
I think that hits so many of the points about what Seth, how we wanted to live, and it's like, make a difference, do good things, treat people fairly. It's and try to make the world better. I think that's what Seth's goal was, make a difference.
And that's a really good, sound advice from his parents, most indeed. But also so after all this, they really still have not, it went quiet. Nobody's really said much until on Fox News, a investigator had come forth looking into the Steph's murder back in May of 2017.
This information come from in terms of knowing or believing, I should say, that Seth Rich could have been in communications with WikiLeaks.
I'm ready to go.
This is a crisis.
This is no time for down.
There was a federal investigator that was involved on the inside of the case, a person that's very credible. And I'll tell you, let me just say this, Sean, I don't like to suggest things without saying the person's name, but I can't say the person's name because that person would be thrown under the bus, and I can't do that. But this person, we checked him out, we have to check him out, very credible. He said he laid eyes on the computer and he laid eyes on the case file, and he came across very credible. When you look at that with the totality of everything else that I found in this case, it's very consistent for a person with my experience to begin to think, well, perhaps there were some email communications between Seth and WikiLeaks. Every time I talk with the police department, though, Sean, every time I talk to the police department about the WikiLeaks or the emails, it's automatically shut down. That discussion is automatically shut down.
Well, so we don't know for sure if the FBI or if the D.C. police have any access to these forensics, these emails?
Right. We don't know. We actually have a statement from the FBI telling us to contact the D.C. police. The D.C. police says contact the FBI. Now, which is it? If this is just a murder investigation, first of all, why would the FBI be involved? The only reason the FBI will be involved, just so that the viewers understand, is if this has some degree of national exposure, meaning because maybe it is related to the DNC, and we don't know that. We don't know that for sure. It could have been a botched robbery. But my point is this, Sean, and I've been investigating murders for a while. You have to look at every possibility. You can't just look at one thing and say, well, that has to be it.
Have you ever seen a lot of robberies, which is how they've been looking into this case, where the person has their wallet and their watch after they've been shot and killed in the back?
No, I haven't. Now, that's not to say that that could not happen. But here's the thing, and this is so important. There's been a $125,000 reward out for information pertaining to the death of Seth Rich. Not one person has come forward. Here's one other thing that's going to be startling, and I'm just going to say this right now. I reached out to the police department way back in March when the family first hired me, right, to get involved. I didn't hear anything from the police department for 2 to 3 days. Guess what I learned yesterday from the family of Seth Rich? The police department did not call me back because someone, a high-ranking official at the DNC, check this out, a high-ranking official at the DNC, when I called the police department, they got that information and called the Rich family wanting to know why was I snooping around.
Wouldn't that explain how is it possible that the DNC, when the FBI wanted to look at their computers, was able to bring in their own people? Or that the people that ended up getting immunity ended up being able to destroy their laptop computers? Is there any evidence that he might have been disgruntled at the treatment of Bernie Sanders and the unfairness, and that the fix was in to put Hillary in that position, and maybe had evidence of that?
No, I haven't seen any evidence in that regard. The only thing that I have been able to confirm is that there were some problems that Seth was having on his job at the DNC right before he was killed. And the person, listen to this, the person that called the father after I called the police to get information, that's the person that Seth was having problems with at the DNC. So, you know, connect the dots here. It's starting to all come together. So, again, let me just really quickly say this. I don't know for sure. I don't know, as a matter of fact, if the emails went out to the WikiLeaks or anybody else, but it sure appears that way.
All right, Rod Wheeler, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. When we come...
So, yeah, they did basically...
I found a way to run my old computer
they basically
with no
did
hard
say
drive.
it was...
Here it is.
It was a robbery for the longest time. But then people started putting the pieces together, and when it came to never did find out who this individual was, who supposedly had a grudge or dispute with Seth or not. That one still, I've never heard of anybody. But the unhappiness of how they treated Bernie Sanders is very apparent, and they have stuck to their story. This was a robbery. Now, Washington is obviously very corrupt. The police, you do have bad apples in the police department, but when you think about it, why did, I believe it was Debbie Wasserman Schultz, try to stop this, try to stop looking at the laptop? I think she was in on that too. She knew something, I believe. But the fact is, you kind of had this investigator that the family hired, and they did have a little bit of issues with the not only Fox News, but I will let that be explained here.
So has with him his attorney, Gene Christensen. Thank you to both of you for being with us tonight.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Chris.
All right, so let's get to some of the allegations. And as you know, we interviewed Ed Butowski here, and he had some stiff responses, and I want to get your response.
Dang it.
To his argument. The main allegation in the lawsuit is that they used you to forward a lie, essentially, that they misquoted you. Is that accurate? Is that your argument here?
That's exactly my argument. Chris, let me just first start out by saying that my heart and prayers go out to the Rich family. They always have. I really tried hard to find a murderer, not to debunk a Russian narrative or to support a Russian narrative, to find a murderer. And while I was in the process of trying to find that murderer, behind the scenes, what I did not know is that this reporter and that this rich guy, Ed Butowski, had another plan in mind. And that's why they brought me into this thing. And I realize that now. Unfortunately, I realize that too late.
Ed Butowski says you're lying. You're aware of this. And one of the things he points to is an appearance by you on Fox News on May 16th. Let's play that.
There was a federal investigator that was involved on the inside of the case, a person that's very credible. He said he laid eyes on the computer and he laid eyes on the case file, and he came across very credible. When you look at that with the totality of everything else that I found in this case, it's very consistent for a person with my experience to begin to think, well, perhaps there were some email communications between Seth and WikiLeaks.
How do you reconcile that Rod Wheeler with the Rod Wheeler before us tonight who's saying, I never wanted anything to do with this conspiracy?
Absolutely. So as during the investigation, when I'm going through information and interviewing people, I get the information. This is important here. I get the information about this federal investigator from who? Malia Zimmerman and Ed Butowski. That was my source from that. And as a matter of fact, when I asked them about this federal investigator, I also asked, is this guy credible? The response was yes. Now, after the story broke, and this is so important real quickly here, Chris, after the story broke, I didn't waste any time, challenged Malia about those quotes that she had put in the story. I also asked her, let me contact this federal investigator to talk to him and to give his information to the D.C. police, and I was told I could not talk to this guy.
All right, one quick thing for you, Gene. I know the lawyer usually here is ignored in these interviews. Not tonight. Proof that he was misquoted. I know that's a little tricky. I know you could look at it as that demonstration of a non-existent fact, but is there anything that you can show in this lawsuit that will demonstrate that your client was misquoted?
Sure. I mean, aside from the fact that we have a 33-page complaint that is full of quotes from audio, from text messages, from emails. These aren't just allegations about Rod saying what happened. We thoroughly checked everything. We listened to these audios, we read the emails, we read the texts, and we only included information in that complaint that we had verified, in fact, had taken place. And contrary to what Mr. Butowski told you on Tuesday night, I believe he said to you that he had lots of documents, lots of text messages, and he was going to hand them to you personally, I think he said. He was going to come down and give them to you.
Yes.
And he's done that. I doubt it, because those other text messages, those other emails don't exist.
I have not seen or heard from the man since we interviewed him, but the invitation stands to take any proof that he has. And that is a good segue for us here. One of the text messages in question here, we'll put it up on the screen, please. Not to add any more pressure, but the president just read the article. He wants the article out immediately. It's now all up to you, but don't feel the pressure. Butowski says this was a joke. Here's his answer.
Rod Wheeler has been asking me for a long time and said, Ed, when I get this case settled, the president's going to hire me. And he was always doing this and saying this to me. So this was tongue-in-cheek, talking, just texting, wasn't serious, because Rod Wheeler was always looking for a job. because he has no money. And by the way, this lawsuit is all about Rod Wheeler trying to get money because he messed up.
Two buddies joking, and you're broke. Rod Wheeler, your response.
Well, here's what I'll say to that. I want to be clear about this, and I hope Mr. Butowski is watching. Look, just because I don't have $3 million laying around the house like he does, that doesn't make me less of a person. Just because I don't get my shirts custom made and I buy my shirts at Macy's, that doesn't make me less of a person. So Mr. Butowski can take all his money bags, and he can stuff it, because as far as I'm concerned, this man knew he was lying. He's been lying the entire time. And one last thing real quickly, and I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking. I'm sure my attorney is saying, okay, Rod, that's enough. But here's the thing. If, in fact, I'm so broke, why haven't I invoiced Mr. Butowski one time for any money? I haven't invoiced it. He sent me a few thousand when I first started. Never invoiced him at all, Chris, for any of the work that I've done.
Why?
Well, I didn't spend a whole lot of time worrying about him, but it just gives you a sense of where his part went. It was going down a rabbit hole. He is not the issue. The issue is Seth Rich and what is at hand here. And you are right, Assange is key. And it's going to be very, very interesting now that he is going to be extradited to the U.S. It'll be amazing if we get to hear some of the stuff that he can present. But, you know, through the years, we've heard, oh, the case is solved, breakthrough, and this and that. Well, that's not true, but we've also had people shoveling the fake news, because you have DNC operatives that love to do this, and we all who are on social media are well aware of this. And Yahoo News was actually one. Michael Idashkoff, excuse me if I mispronounced his name, spoke about the first note of the accusation of the Clintons murdering Seth. Now, everybody who has deep dive into the whole Russia conspiracy thing and went back all the way to Arkansas, the Clintons are well known to have associates and former lovers, quote, sided, you know, and it just goes to show that the big companies like Yahoo and Facebook are, hi, how you doing? Welcome. Are well known to say everything is conspiracy, and they cover for the Clintons and the Obamas and the Sanders. So they're always going to try to mislead. So here is, in fairness, I'm going to just say Michael Eisenkopf's point of view.
What we discovered in the course of this is we talked to the prosecutor.
This is how much cinnamon it takes to drop blood sugar.
Prosecutor who was in charge of the case. Nobody had ever reached her before. She had retired last year. She was living in Florida, and it took some time to get her to talk. But she ultimately did, and she said she was so frustrated at seeing all these wild conspiracy theories circulating out there about her case, the case she was trying to figure out, and that she used her security clearance to ask the U.S. intelligence community to help her figure this puzzle out. And they came back with what was a smoking gun that really blew her away. That on July 13th, just 3 days after Seth Rich's death, the SVR, that's the Russia's version of the CIA's, its foreign intelligence agency, circulates a bulletin claiming that Seth Rich was on his way to talk to the FBI at 4 in the morning on a Sunday when he's gunned down by a squad of assassins hired by Hillary Clinton. And that was the first really known instance of somebody making the conspiracy claim. It pops up on this obscure website the very same day, whatdoesitmean.com, which is a site that really is a vehicle for Russian propaganda. And from there, it migrates into 4chan and Reddit and these alt-right websites. And by August 9th, 3 weeks later, Roger Stone, longtime advisor to Donald Trump, self-proclaimed dirty trickster, picks it up, tweets a picture of Seth Rich, and says, "Another dead body in the Clintons' wake."
Because they're well known for this. You said you saw this from another country? Where are you from? But again, it is, while we're waiting for him to respond, it's just not feasible. Why would the Russians want this man dead? How would they know who he was? He was a staffer. He was not like well known until now. At least in the political arena, he was trying to do his job. He was, for his guy, he felt he was shaft, and actually Bernie Sanders did get the shaft. He should have, and I'm not pro Bernie. He probably could have won it, or should have won it, not Hillary. Because everybody should know, and if you don't, that she thinks she's it and she can do whatever she wishes. She's just one of those type of politicians, long career, thinking she could do anything and screw over everybody. And unfortunately, so far she has. Things are changing. Things are really, really changing around here, especially with some of the news that's been getting out. It's going to be interesting. But when the one person who probably could really get this type of information out, and who would get this information out, is Julian Assange. Now, you say, who is he? He's owner and founder of WikiLeaks. He has been able to get very high class information. How? Good question. I don't know. Were they hacked? Couldn't tell you. Were people like Seth Rich fed up with things that are going on? That could be another. Unfortunately, he never did get this information to Julian Assange, but Assange never officially said that he was working for him. But he does give little hints, and he has, that Seth Rich was going to deliver all these emails. Now, eventually they did get the emails. How? Good question. That's for another story. But here is Julian right now when he was with WikiLeaks. This would be from, let's see, August 9th, 2016.
Donald Trump has had a disastrous few weeks. If you look at the polls, he needs a miracle. In the American political lexicon, there's such a thing as the October surprise. The stuff that you're sitting on, is an October surprise in there? Do you even know what you're sitting on?
WikiLeaks never sits on material. Whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material, and often very significant risks. There's a 27-year-old works for the DNC who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago for unknown reasons as he was walking down the street in Washington. So
that was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
No, there's no finding. So
what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one of your sources then? I mean,
we don't comment on who our sources are.
But why make the suggestion about a young guy being shot in the streets of Washington?
Because we have to understand how high the stakes are in the United States, and that our sources are, our sources face serious risks. That's why they come to us, so we can protect their anonymity.
But it's quite something to suggest a murder. That's basically what you're doing.
Well, that others have suggested that. We are investigating to understand what happened in that situation with Seth Rich. I think it is a concerning situation. There's not a conclusion yet. We wouldn't be willing to state a conclusion, but we are concerned about it. And more importantly, a variety of WikiLeaks sources are concerned when that kind of thing happens.
And there is considerably risk, of course.
China's blaming the U.S.
If you're getting caught, you could be murdered, you could go to jail. A lot of different things. And it's funny how he kind of dances around that, He was really sly, and I did like it because he was protecting his source, which is good. And so that's kind of this is where you kind of get more of a summary of, yes, he was working for Julian Assange. He also had put up a $10,000 reward for any information to his murder. I mean, what else are you going to think? That he actually did have a connection to this man. This is from August 1st, 2016, where Assange went on Meet the Press.
There really is nothing new about the U.S. and Russia.
With a fleet of over 300,000, we know trucks. We can spot faulty sensors from anywhere. We can predict when parts will fail and fix them before they do. We do it all.
They were still trying to push that
That's how we
narrative of Russian collusion.
Russia spying on each other. Decades of Cold War era movies and books couldn't have existed without the idea of U.S.-Soviet espionage. But what appears to be Russia's attempt to expose Democratic Party emails and sabotage Hillary Clinton's campaign would be entirely new. If proven true, it's already claimed one victim, former Democratic Chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And WikiLeaks is promising there's more to come. Well, joining me now is the founder of WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, who has been granted asylum at the Embassy of Ecuador in London. He is currently fighting extradition to Sweden because of rape charges, by the way, that he denies. Mr. Assange joins me now. Good morning, sir. Welcome to Meet the Press.
Good morning, Chuck. First, I'll have to, unfortunately, correct you for some sloppy journalism. I have not been charged with anything whatsoever, and I have already been previously cleared, and the UN has formally found this year that I am illegally detained in this embassy for the past 4 years.
We will correct the record and let your comments there speak for themselves. Let me start with the WikiLeaks core mission. In the service that you have wanted it to perform, to speak truth to power. Are you concerned that when if a foreign government uses your entity, that you have now seen WikiLeaks get weaponized?
James Clapper on Friday, the head of US intelligence, the DNI, said there's been a lot of hyperventilation in the press and that it was impossible even to ascribe motive at this stage, let alone who it is. I'll give the exact quote. We don't know enough to ascribe motivation regardless of who it might have been. And hyperventilation also comes from James Clapper. So that's where we're starting in terms of US intelligence. Now, I think it's extremely interesting, however, the Clinton campaign, in order to divert attention from proof that we published that the Sanders campaign was subverted within the DNC, not simply comments within the DNC, but a chain of command issuing orders to push around without attribution fake stories showing that Sanders supporters were violent, amongst numerous other matters. That has been pushed out before the public. And in response, what does the Clinton campaign do? The Clinton campaign tries to take attention away from a very serious domestic allegation about election interference and try and bring in foreign policy.
Well, the easiest way, Mr. Assange, the easiest way to clear this up.
So concerning. Right. So concerning is that even to the head of the DNI, the Clinton campaign is pulling the government, pulling the state of politics along with it to create an international conflict.
Well, let me ask you this, though. This is unusual. But
I have to come out and
understand. But the easiest way to clear this up, Mr. Assange, would you be able to say categorically that a foreign government did not hand you this material? The issue at hand here is the idea that a foreign government is using you as a go-between, is using WikiLeaks. This is no longer about accountability on public figures. This is one foreign government going after another foreign government, using you as the intermediary. That seems to be a different deal than, for instance, a whistleblower handing material over to expose government authoritarianism or something like that.
What I can say categorically is that we have published proof that the election campaign of Bernie Sanders was sabotaged in a corrupt manner by Debbie Wasserman Schultz and others within the DNC. We can say that categorically we have published proof. Now, as to anything else, we can only speculate. I do think it's an interesting question, of course, as to who our sources are. But as a source protection organization that many sources from across the world of many different types rely on to protect their identities and their right to communicate the truth to the public. And that's what we're talking about here, communicating the truth.
I totally understand that, but doesn't, I got to ask you though, when a foreign government gets involved, there is a difference there. When a foreign government gets involved, you just said yourself, well, that's an interesting question. Transparency on WikiLeaks, why not be fully transparent and say, look, here's the material. Where it comes from doesn't change the facts in the material. But it is helpful to know that if a foreign government is involved, isn't that crucial information to civilians?
I think
with a fleet of over 300,000, we know trucks. We can spot faulty sensors from anywhere. We can predict when parts will fail and fix them before they do.
Until these
we do it all,
advertisements
so
are
you
over.
don't have to. That's how we deliver confidence. Penske.
I think that is an interesting question. The difficulty that WikiLeaks has, of course, is that we can't, go around speculating on who our sources are. That would be irresponsible.
Well, no, you can't speculate. You know the answer. Well, Mr. Assange, you say you can't go around speculating. Do you not know the answer?
We don't give any material away as to who our sources are. It's it's a security matter for us as to who our sources are. We have a perfect track record over 10 years.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Do you accept
accurate information
on
the one hand, and on the other hand, of never revealing our source?
All right, let me ask you this. Do you, without revealing your source on this, do you accept information and leaked documents from foreign governments?
Well, our publishing model means that what we publish is guaranteed to be true. That's what we're concerned about. That's what our readers are concerned about. That's the right of the general public to not.
But isn't the right of the public to know the motive, to also know the motive of the leaker?
Very serious true information, which is producing great investigative journalism in the United States and is continuing to do so as each day passes by. So I think that the real question is, what is the legitimacy now, and what is the accountability of what has occurred within the Democratic campaign, where we have clear proof of sabotage. It's already seen one head resign. Our sources within the DNC say that they believe more heads are going to roll. But what about the election? What's the redress for the people that have effectively, one can argue, have had a candidate stolen from them as a result of corrupt practices within the DNC?
Are you hoping these leaks elect Donald Trump president?
It doesn't. I mean, it's irrelevant. That's not why we publish. WikiLeaks. Let's take a step back. WikiLeaks was founded 10 years ago. We have 100% track record for accuracy on the material we've published. We have published 11 million publications, including 650,000 that are about Russia, mostly critical, more than 2 million about the government of Syria, including Bashar al-Assad's personal emails. We don't have any concern as to whether Hillary is elected or Trump is elected. We're concerned that the material we publish is always accurate on the one hand, and that our sources are protected on the other.
And you are not troubled by the idea that a foreign government is handing you this information. Does that not trouble you at all if a foreign government is trying to meddle in the affairs of another foreign government?
Well, it's an interesting speculative question that's for the press and others to.
But does that not, that doesn't bother you? That is not part of the WikiLeaks.
Well, it's a meta story. If you're asking, would we accept information from U.S. intelligence that we had verified to be completely accurate, and would we publish that? And would we protect our sources in U.S. intelligence? The answer is yes, of course we do.
You used to have a TV show on a media company called Russia Today, RT. It is a company that is run by the Russian government. They still promote your television show. I know you haven't done an episode in 4 years. Do you have any other financial arrangement with the Russian government beyond RT?
Well, okay. No, there's no financial arrangement. There's no one in this organization that is Russian or can even speak Russian. The TV show you're talking about, The World Tomorrow, worldtomorrow.wikileaks.org, it's a wholly independently produced TV show here in London with Dartmouth Films, a well-regarded London production company. We sold licenses to 12 broadcasters and newspapers around the world, including Russia Today. And that's the extent of the cooperation. They bought the license and they aggressively promoted it. And people in the Hillary Clinton camp have tried to seize on the one broadcaster bought a license from us in 2012 to suggest that there's some kind of connection, and that is false.
Are you are you timing your leaks? I know you have there's a lot of speculation that you have more information from what was taken from the DNC. Are you timing your leaks for maximum impact on the Clinton campaign?
We're timing our leaks to make sure that A, that they're verified, that we keep a 100% track record, B, that they're formatted, indexed, in a position where investigative journalists can use them, where the public can use them, where lawyers can use them as pristine documents, where prosecutors can use them. We have a great track record of contributing to hundreds of legal cases and prosecutions, let alone what happens in terms of political accountability. That's how we choose our timing. As soon as we're done, as soon as we're ready, as soon as we're confident in our material, and when there's a position where we know that the public is interested, that's when we release.
Former supporters or current supporters of your mission are concerned that you release too much information, that you allow civilians who are not part of this, you allow too much of their private information out. There was a release of information, for instance, on Turkish citizens that was about the government, but it ended up releasing a whole bunch of personal information on millions of women in Turkey, for instance. Are you going to reconsider your protocols and redact information that would just harm civilians unfairly?
I'm glad you brought up that Turkish case, because it is simply false. We did not publish any such information at any time in any manner whatsoever. It's simply a false story. It is being promoted by the Clinton campaign in order to distract from the revelation of corruption within the DNC.
Okay. Mr. Assange, I'm going to leave it there. I appreciate your time and you coming on Meet the Press this morning.
As much as I really don't like Todd, I think those are pretty fair questions. They weren't very leading, and Julian answered them very well, the best of his knowledge. I do not know anything about the other stories, but that's not what this is about. But the important thing is, I'm not particularly sure. I would assume, and I'm only assuming because we don't really know, that he did get him. He got these emails. Now, this murder could have happened after the delivery. Maybe the suspects decided to knock him off after they figured that he was the one who sold the documents, and they were going to punish him anyway. There's a little bit of something like that that has recently been brought up, and there's some new stuff that has come up. Now, the DC swamp is deep and murky, and you gotta remember, at this time, this was still like near an election, and guess who was still Director Comey? He was still in there, and all the other cronies. The Obama administration was still there at that time. Do you think they're really going to tell a whole lot? Are they going to allow a real investigation? Are they going to allow the police to investigate? Well, with their track record, that's probably a no. But more time has passed, and of March 2nd of 18, they had announced there was a break in the case. Here we go.
Were, oh, you need to leave his parents alone. His parents are suffering. Leave the issue alone. Let it die. Who cares that there is no investigation going into his murder? Who cares that many of the people...
Oh, well, my apologies for that. This is where they were starting more crap. So, my apologies, misread that.
People in charge of over
40 years, give or take, is what Joe Biden got to solve America's problems. He spent them supporting trade with China.
These are
while we
ads
lost
I can't
over 100,000
fast
Michigan jobs to China.
But
learn more at BeijingBiden.com.
overseeing the investigation are direct relatives of Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Who cares that they call it a botched robbery when nothing was stolen from him? Who cares that there are reports that DC police have been told to stand down and not to investigate? We need to worry about Seth's parents' feelings. Well, I guess now we don't have to worry about that, because Seth's parents apparently have come to terms with the fact that their son was the source for WikiLeaks, something that we all knew, something that Julian Assange all but said on international television. Reasonable people with any kind of technical background whatsoever realized that there was something wrong, that the FBI never inspected the DNC servers, yet swore up and down that they had been hacked by the Russians. You see, Seth Rich is that Jenga piece, that if you pull it out, the whole tower comes crashing down. So this Russian collusion isn't just a cover for having lost an election. It's a cover for a murder. Even Donna Brazil said that she was afraid, after Seth Rich was murdered, she was afraid that snipers might kill her. She would close the blinds at night. She installed surveillance cameras at her home because she was afraid of being killed, which is a completely irrational thing to do if it was just simply a robbery. It is way beyond a shadow of a doubt. Seth Rich was murdered for leaking emails from the DNC to WikiLeaks. Even the often insufferably skeptic Scott Adams now agrees. Scott Adams, who I sometimes wonder if his skepticism is really just a form of persuasion. The reason I say that it's possibly a persuasion technique is so often you see his opinion on subjects publicly transform as the Overton window shifts, and he ends up being on the right side, having started out on the most blue-pilled position. So perhaps we should look at this as a good sign. Perhaps this is all part of the rollout of what's about to come. However, at the end of the day, no one has been arrested. No one has been investigated. And the amount of corruption involved in this case is so astronomical, given everything else that's going on. It's really difficult for me to have hope that anything's going to happen. And I know there's a lot of people that still trust Jeff Sessions to do the right thing. But actions speak louder than words. And so far, those actions have not given me any confidence. So how do we get justice for Seth Rich? I would like to hear your suggestions in the comments below. I think it would be appropriate to have a demonstration, possibly on the upcoming anniversary of his death, or of his murder, I should say. Maybe at an appropriate location, such as the DNC headquarters. Maybe even at the plaque that the DNC put when they dedicated a fucking bike rack in his memory. You know, that still really pisses me off. That is some cold-hearted shit right there. I don't think it's too out of the realm of possibility to suggest that that was a warning to others within the DNC that might want to go against the grain, but I digress. On the same day that the article about Seth Rich's parents in the Washington Times, that Seth Rich's parents now believe, as every reasonable person should, that Seth Rich was the source for WikiLeaks. On the same day, NBC News ran a story. The headline is, Mueller eyes charges against Russians who stole and spread Democrats' emails. Now that's not a coincidence. Starts out, Special Counsel Robert Mueller is assembling a case for criminal charges against Russians who carried out the hacking and leaking. Okay, so already it's a lie. There was no hacking, and the leaking was done by Seth Rich of private information designed to hurt Democrats. Okay, well, that's another lie. It wasn't designed to hurt Democrats. These were their own words. So unless the Democrats were sending themselves fake emails to make themselves look bad, they were not designed to hurt Democrats. These were their own words. These were Democrats talking to each other. And if people knowing what they say to each other is damaging to them, that is not the same thing as information designed to hurt Democrats. But the last and most troubling part of this opening paragraph is, multiple current and former government officials familiar with the matter tell NBC News. So there are people within the government right now, the Trump administration government, who is pursuing this line of thinking. But what else would you expect from a Department of Justice run by Jeff Sessions, who recuses himself from anything and everything, Rod Rosenstein, who is directly implicated in the Uranium One scandal, among other things, and a special counsel, which should never have existed in the first place, triggered by James Comey, a traitor and a liar. We're at a turning point, folks. The only reason why you know a lot of this stuff in the first place is because of independent media like Blackpilled and others. So at the same time that they're bringing the hammer down, trying to censor the internet, that's the fiction. Because look at NBC News, that's like a parallel universe. Just imagine the amount of corruption that's been going on for decades. And because there was no internet, and because there was no alternative media, just imagine the kind of corruption that's been going on for decades, while the so-called media has just covered it up and outright lied like NBC is right here. If you don't know about Guccifer 2.0, and that's going to be who Mueller will trot out as the source of the WikiLeaks to cover up the fact that the DNC murdered Seth Rich. I've got an entire video on Guccifer, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Guccifer 2.0 is a cover-up for a murder committed by the DNC. If no one is brought to justice in this case, if the people responsible for Seth Rich's murder go free, there is no republic. There is no republic. You're going to have some corruption no matter what system you have, no matter what kind of government you have, but a government that covers up murder is no government at all. They have no moral authority. Especially when it's the murder of a patriot who died in service of his country. And I'm sorry to say it, but this is under the Trump administration. And Trump sending angry tweets to Jeff Sessions is not going to get the job done. Trump is the president. He can fire Jeff Sessions. He should fire Rod Rosenstein. He can order Jeff Sessions to investigate the Seth Rich murder. He can order Jeff Sessions to do precisely what he is tweeting to Jeff Sessions. A tweet is not an order. So it's moments like this that really explain why the name of my channel is Blackpilled. Because sadly, the reality is, if you can't expect justice when it comes to the assassination of a president, then how can you ever expect justice when it comes to the assassination of a low-level DNC staffer? For Blackpilled, I'm Devin Stack.
So that's where we were back then. And we knew then and we know now that Guccifer had nothing to do with it. And a lot of this stuff has been uncovered and put back in the history books of what it is today. With the Russian hoax, the quote, the Russians stole the emails. My personal opinion, I think the president had the emails early February of maybe last year. That's only my guess. I do not know. I can only hope. I believe they have them now, believe it or not. We jump a little bit forward to February 20th. Or excuse me, we go to February 20th, where another breaking story had happened. Breaking news in the Seth Rich murder. New files had just been found who did not want them to see, or did not want them to get out. Darn it. So, and that was just basically the headline. So we've had these over the time of what has been going on. Then we come to 2019. More claims of FBI corruption and not doing their job, which they did not do their job. They could have probably solved this case very early on. Seth Rich murderer update. FBI claims they did not investigate the NSA. Claims cannot disclose file due to matter of national security. Funny how that always comes up when they do not want us to find anything. Gateway Pundit wrote this. We reported last July a Texas businessman, Ed Batowski, filed a lawsuit where the outed reporter Ellen Redder has a source to information to Seth Rich. The DNC operative was murdered in 2016, blah, blah, blah. Claimed to be, let's see. It has totally destroyed the FBI. Mueller claims that the Russians hacked the DNC to obtain emails, so they went through that. Petrowski claims in a lawsuit, Mr. Redder said Mr. Assange told her that Seth Rich and his brother Aaron were responsible for the releasing of the DNC emails to WikiLeaks. Ms. Ritter said that Mr. Assange wanted the information relayed to Seth's parents, as they might explain a motive to Seth's murder. On November 9th, 2016, Ellen Ritter admitted publicly that she met with Julian Assange. And for 3 hours, that the Saturday before 2016 election, according to Ritter, Julian Assange told her the leaks were not from Russia. They were an internal source from the Clinton campaign.
I know we all I hate these media people. They're the worst. Awful, awful. But don't get hung up on it, because it doesn't have that much of an effect. And they did report the emails, Wikipedia. They went after Hillary. WikiLeaks, yeah, excuse me.
By the way, just FYI,
I got to take a WikiLeaks.
I spent 3 hours with Julian Assange on Saturday at the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
Listen to this. Go ahead.
Well, I did.
Yeah.
But one of the things he did say is that the leaks were not from, they were not from the Russians. They were an internal source from the Hillary campaign, or from somebody that knew Hillary, an enemy. He does not think they're from Russians. And he said Russia got credit for something WikiLeaks should have gotten credit for.
Well, how many people think that there was part of the party, the Democratic Party, that was trying to put the poison in? Because I always wondered if there were people who just secretly wanted to ruin it for her within their own party. Do you think that?
Well, as he said, she's been around a long time. She has a lot of enemies, and the enemies that he had or has are mainly in the real estate business, but not, he hasn't been in public life, so he doesn't have that sort of enemies that all of us would get if we were in public life.
So that is what she has says. Now, that's a big deal. That if she just said that that's not where they came from. But the president always got, and he still does get, a lot of flack after making a joke, asking Russia to release the emails. The left does not have a sense of humor whatsoever. They cannot tell you when somebody is joking. We later reported that Brisky and his attorney, Ty Claver, requested to obtain documents from the FBI related in the case, which we were able to analyze. According to the duo, they obtained a transcript of former FBI staff James Rabinsky. Here he states that the Obama White House was the entity that was pushing the Russia conspiracy as early as October 2016. And in the circle, if you see, a desire by the White House. We also understand that the same point in the October 2016 there was, I guess, a desire by the White House to make some kind of a public statement about Russia. So they knew about that time. Clover stated in the Post outline that newly released documents from the FBI suggest that the Obama White House pushed intelligence agency to publicly blame the Russians for email leaks from the Democratic National Committee and WikiLeaks. This afternoon, I received this update and heavy redacted transcript of an interview of James Aritsky, former Chief Bureau of the FBI Director James Comey, that includes this exhibit. So we understand that at some point in October 2016, there was, I guess, a desire for the White House to make the same kind of statement about the Russians. And then the next page was opted. The comment is made by an unidentified prosecutor in the U.S. Office of Special Counsel, or OSC, not to be confused with the office of former Special Counsel Robert Mueller. The OSC is a prominent office investigating Hatch Act violations, and Mr. Comey was under investigation for trying to influence the 2016 presidential election. Roger Stone indictment. Trump Roger Stone is facing charges, over who provided Roger Stone faces charges from the Mueller gag that are based on key questions who provided the DNC the Podesta emails to WikiLeaks. Current FBI and Mueller team claimed the emails were hacked and nearly entirely expected the DNC server, which was supposedly hacked. They have provided no proof of this. So the FBI did not even look into this case at all. The DNC instead hires a firm, CrowdStrike. Now we know that name, don't we? With connections to Mueller and former Obama Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, who provided a redact report to the FBI, and Mueller starting the emails were hacked by Russians. Former NSA whistleblower Bill Binney claims that the evidence, the DNC emails were not hacked, but copied, most likely to a flash drive or something similar. When Ty Claver requested documents from the FBI related to any investigation into the death of Seth Rich, they replied that they never investigated Seth Rich, and they did not even have any records on him. 33. The RIDS have previously contacted the FBI Washington, D.C. field office in June 21st, 2017, the conjunction with another request, FOLA request, for records concerning Seth Rich's murder. Second, handily decal, sorry, it's not very clear. The field office advised that it did not open an investigation into Seth Rich's murder, and that the District of Columbia Police Department had disclaimed its offer to assist in the investigation handily. But when the documents were requested by the NSA, they replied that they won't release their records regarding Seth Rich because a matter of national security. With respect to the fourth category of records request in plaintiff's letter, the NSA respond by letter dated October 4th, 2018. Thomas Ducey, 15, and XE, In the response, the NSA stated that it had identified 15 responsive documents and was withholding all of them, total of 32 pages. In the entities present, the FOLA explains 1 and 3, 5 USC codes. Funny how they just pop up too, don't they? The USC 552B1 states, this section does not apply to the matter. They are A, specifically authorized under criteria established by the executive order to be kept secret in the intel of national defense and foreign policy, and B, are fact property classified present to such executive order. So the FBI investigated the Seth Rich murder, even though the NSA said the case was a matter of national security. This is true. When you take anything from a facility like that, it does become a very vital document of national security. Then we jump to present day. We're getting very close. And this came out earlier this year. Breaking exclusive. FBI claims previously undisclosed Peter Strzok and Lisa Page emails on Seth Rich are redacted to protect investigators who claim what happened. So they not only messed with General Flynn, but they covered this up as well. After getting caught lying in the courts and claiming they were no documents related to Seth Rich, emails between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were uncovered. And this is something I didn't even hear about. Now the FBI claims these emails are redacted to protect the investigators they claim never happened. Christopher Wray, FBI, gets caught again. As we reported last week, attorney Ty Claveridge, reported that the courts on Monday that despite numerous occasions, the FBI, that they had no information related to Seth Rich, the FBI had been caught with therefore was lying to him all the time. In response, the DOJ immediately stepped in a letter to the judge. In this letter, the DOJ claimed the FBI had met its burden and the search would have located emails of investigation surface. The notice comfort plaintiff FOLA request to the FBI dated September 1st, 2017 for its permanent records pertaining to Seth Rich, who was murdered in the District of Columbia. Plaintiff has maintained that the FBI did not conduct a responsible search and seeks discovery. However, the FBI met its burden of showing that its search was adequate and therefore it entitled to summary judge. Reply. Let's see. Record keeping systems, but it did not locate any main file about Rich, or referring file. The search of the CRS would have located any emails of investigative significance. DC Field Office was contracted to ascertain whether it had any records. It did not. Then case number. The DOJ next says that the Mueller sham Hillary email extortion, the Ukraine hoax, Fast and Furious, FISA, FASA warrants, abuse, such much more. The FBI is entitled to a preservation of good faith. Plaintiff now claims that the new evidence shows the FBI directly hid the records about Rich and pretended a fraud on this court, and in another effort to undermine the FBI's declassifications, which are entitled to preservation of good faith. The new evidence to which plaintiff something fails to show that the FBI did not conduct an adequate search for justifying discovery. The email conspiracy or complete abuse from plaintiff filing was released by the FBI in response to another request, FOLA or IA request. The DOJ says the FBI was not investigating Rich's death in a release case. The email considered by plaintiff confirms that the FBI has stated that the FBI was not investigating Seth Rich's death. DOJ then says the FBI never said they had searched anyone's emails and claimed it did not identify the emails later released because they were not sensitive emails. Jeez, oh Peter. Now we can report that yesterday Claver filed a motion for evidentiary hearing a result of government response. In his response, Claver showed that the FBI urges that they redacted the emails related to Seth Rich that were recently found and sent to just your watch. I always have a problem with pronouncing that because they did not want to disclose investigating or prosecutory, tongue-tied again, activities. However, Clover agrees that the FBI claimed that there was no investigation into Seth Rich, which we went over. So that is kind of where we're at, and there's even more. Yes, there's a lot. There's still more. And it goes on to January 30th of 2020. So we're really not too far off of where we are today. Breaking exclusive: FBI covered up Strut and Page emails regarding Seth Rich. Now the FBI is doubling down in their cover-up. So they doubled down on their cover-up. And from there, I don't want to read all that again because we just went through all of that. Then we'll go to March 30th of 2020. Attorney requests all documents related to Seth Rich from FBI and new testimony from former DOJ assistant. The U.S. Attorney discloses the FBI did examine Seth Rich's computer. New evidence confirmed the FBI is lying again after a former assistant U.S. attorney claims under oath that the FBI did examine Seth's computer. Previously, we reported that after getting caught lying to the courts and claiming they had no documents related to Seth Rich, emails between FBI deep state lovers Strut and Page were uncovered by Judicial Watch with the title Seth Rich. Next, the FBI claimed that Strut and Page emails were redacted to project investigations that claimed that never happened. After bringing in the U.S. Attorney from the East District of New York to urge against the evidentiary hearing on the matter, the judge denied attorney Ty Clover request for the evidentiary hearing, but provided an explanation for the verdict. Cloveridge has now uncovered that the former assistant attorney, related to the case, admitted Seth Rich's computer was inspected by the FBI and there would be records related to the investigation. Attorney Ty Cloveridge was back in court requesting information about Seth Rich and the FBI, DOJ. This has been going on for years, and now the government denying any records, even though much evidence is available to the contrary. Yesterday, Coverage filed a request against, again, asking information related to Seth Rich case. This was based on the recent testimony of former Assistant U.S. Attorney Deborah Shines. The plaintiff, acting in his capacity of counsel for Edward Brodensky, excuse me if I mispronounced the name, the court may recall, and Ms. Shines was the prosecutor assigned to Seth Rich's murder case. And she told journalist Michael Eisenkopf during an interview last year that the FBI investigators attempts to hack into Mr. Rich's electronic accounts. See plaintiff's motion to accept supplemental evidence of plaintiff. Mr. Eisenkopf stated that the FBI had examined Seth Rich's computer ID. In her March 20th, 2020 testimony, Ms. Shines confirmed that her statement about the FBI investigations were true. She further confirmed that the FBI examined Mr. Rich's computer. In mid-February, how Mr. Ty Cloveridge reported to the courts to dispute numerous accounts or assurances that the FBI had no information about Seth Rich, and they were lying. In response, the DOJ immediately stepped in and a letter to the judge. In the letter, the DOJ claimed the FBI met its burden of proof, yada yada. We already went through that. The plaintiff is mentioned in the FBI did not consent a relatable search, but we just went through that. The DOJ next said that after the Mueller sham Hillary email collection hoax, went through this. The plaintiff now claims that the new evidence shows that the FBI deliberately hid records about Rich's and prepared to fraud upon this court in another effort to undermine the FBI disclosure. So that is really kind of getting home to where we are today. Let me look at this really quick. Make sure. Okay, that's just more information. But this is where we're at, my friends. And excuse me. Hey, movie time. Lots to talk about, every little action from the common man. That's right. So that is where we're at. We're getting a little closer, but will it really ever come down to it? And there is an email that has Podesta saying he'll take care of anybody who has these emails. It's literally in the WikiLeaks emails. So it's damning, and still it could be by Hillary's order. She still could be a accessory and same with Podesta, if they have enough evidence. And I think in the leaks that they have are enough to put them away for a long time. But again, you got to stress, do we have good judges who will make a lawful decision? Not corruption, not an Obama administration, but lawful judges. We already have one judge for Michael Flynn. He was an Obama appointee. He's screwing around. There's still justice to come for Michael Flynn. But will there ever be justice for this man? Yeah, he was a Bernie supporter, but he was a human being. That's what's really important, and that's what should always be kept in mind. That this man wanted to do the right thing, and he died. Only time will tell. Now, with all the emails, I'm pretty sure they got them all now. Because you have the NSA, you have Anthony Weiner's laptop, and then you have FBI files. I'm sure they are somewhere. Now, is Director Wray going to get off his ass and do something about this? Make sure that A.G. Barr has everything he needs? Well, the way he's kind of dicking around, I don't think so. I'm very disappointed in Wray. I thought he'd be a good man. I thought he would do the right thing. Maybe there's a reason. He needs to give us one. This man was murdered. Their family lost a son, brother. I think any of our families, despite their political views, would want justice done for their family, and answers too. Now, the family of Seth Rich have asked the media not to politicize this. Well, it's really kind of hard when it comes to the heart of the political realm. So I'm going to leave you with that. I hope it gave you a little insight, a little new information what's going on. That's kind of up to date. If there's anything new, I'll try to find it, and if I have something, I will try to present it to you. I hope that you enjoyed it and it was informative. Again, I am not a Bernie supporter. I'm not a Democrat. But this man deserves answers. His family, he demands justice. His family deserves answers, as any of us would want if a family member had died. I'm going to put some lemons in the chest for everybody in there. Let me put some in there. Come on, Smith. There we go. And I'm going to open up the chest for everybody in D Live. So join me on D Live, YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope and Twitter. Periscope did not work, so I'm going to just transfer over, and this will be taped. And I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and we get answers really soon. And it's about ready to clock down. And it's odd. Okay, well, nobody got the lemons. I don't know why. So that's just the way it clocked in. Maybe there's enough chat. I don't know how D-Live really works right now. But I appreciate you joining. And if you find something, present it. Remember, if you're protesting, be peaceful, be respectful. God bless the President of the United States, Vice President, military, doctors, nurses, law enforcement, and Border Patrol. And everybody have a wonderful weekend. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Have a wonderful night.